Hello, I am Mr. Credible, and I think I have just noticed something. There seem to be a lot of conspiracy theories these days. Do you believe in conspiracy theories? Don't worry, this is a safe space. You can tell me. This wouldn't be strange at all, given that most people in the world believe in at least one conspiracy theory. The reference number on the screen shows you the sources for the claims I'm making. Every source is in the Google document in the description. We all have minds that are prone to conspiracy theories, and whether we want it or not, they shape us and the world around us. But have you ever wondered what makes us believe in conspiracy theories? What is their appeal? And perhaps most importantly, are they right? What conspiracy theory is, well, somewhat hard to define. They are meant to be causal explanations of events that claim a group of powerful secret individuals are plotting to inflict harm upon people. For something to be considered a conspiracy theory, there has to be a widely accepted explanation by somebody more credible. But who is credible and why, as well as specific intricacies of conspiracy theories, are a different topic that requires its own time and place. Georges Monbiot argues that the term conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist are misleading. I am a conspiracy theorist. I believe that groups of people conspire secretly against our interests to line their pockets, cover their backs, or achieve political goals. By this definition, I suspect you are too. He instead proposes the term conspiracy fiction or conspiracy fantasist for those situations in which people will continue to believe in conspiracy theories despite lack of any credible evidence for them or very obvious evidence against. I agree with his opinion. However, modern psychological studies still use the terms conspiracy theory and conspiracy theorist, so better luck next time. The point is that there isn't a clear difference between what conspiracy theory is and is not. Definitions can differ based on how likely something is to be true, but until official distinction is regularly made, some conspiracy theories may turn out to be correct. What I want to talk about today is what motivates people to believe in conspiracy theories. What is that internal feeling or need that makes them dismiss official account for conspiratorial stories? It goes without saying that governments lie.
But you don't believe in any conspiracy theory? You just think the government's just batting 1,000 and telling us the whole truth? That's a strong stance to take.
However, believing that governments are lying is not a conspiracy theory. In fact, many governments have spread conspiracy theories themselves to maintain their own power. For example, Turkey has the term ustaku, which isn't actually pronounced like that, but again, this is not a linguistic channel. Are you noticing the pattern yet? The Turkish government is actually pretty remarkable in how many conspiracy theories it pushes, with ustaku being the idea that there is a mastermind plan to destroy Turkey, usually by USA. And the conspiracy theory is actually propagated by the President Erdogan himself and the official newspaper, Daily Sabah. My precious! There are three types of motives for why people believe in conspiracy theories: epistemic, existential, and social. Epistemic motives are the ones which form a reliable, certain, and stable view of the world. Essentially, a person is trying to make sense of the world in a way they can comprehend. We all have a drive to understand our everyday world, and conspiracy theories give us a certain version of it. Having intuitive explanation for ambiguous events, finding meaning in the unpredictability of the world, and maintaining our beliefs despite contradiction, these are all epistemic motives. And people who believe in conspiracy theories tend to rely slightly more on intuition, things they initially feel are right, and slightly less on analytical thinking, which are our deeper and more complicated thoughts.
No, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all.
This might allow them to create easily accessible explanations for certain events, but it also means they have to be more dogmatic and less open-minded to avoid the potential certainty of not knowing. As mentioned in my last video, which you should totally check out, Pattern recognition is a vital ability that allowed us to become as successful as we are as a species. But it can also make us see things that are not there. This reliance on intuition and the need to find meaning can make people vulnerable to illusory pattern perception, seeing connections where there are none. There is evolutionary advantage to noticing connections. But this also means that our brains do not want to accept that things may happen by chance. We impose purpose on arbitrary randomness because we need to have meaningful connections. A study by Walker et al. 2019 demonstrated how people who have trouble differentiating meaningful motivational statements from pseudo-profound bullshit are more likely to see patterns when there are none. They fall to illusory pattern perception. If you're interested in how much profoundness you would see in meaninglessly generated statements, try this bullshit maker for yourself. Here's a link down below. Reliance on the intuition and the need to find meaning can also lead to hypersensitive agency detection, believing that everything that happens is intentional, or anthropomorphism, giving things human-like characteristics. Remember that HIDAR and simul animation from the last video? It was also used here, and people who believe in more conspiracy theories also tended to see more agency and intention in these shapes. I think it's a pretty fucking cool finding. However, the strongest epistemic motive seems to be delusion proneness. How likely are people to believe in something without proof? Time for a personal story. Last year, somebody told me how in the 1930s, individuals of Semitic origin ran brothels in Germany using minors as prostitutes. Appalled by such a thing, I went online to look into it and found nothing. I was also sent to sources, but neither proved what this person originally claimed. I figured that might be it, but for the next several days, I noticed something peculiar. There were countless comments saying the same thing. Out of nowhere, this claim started being repeated as a fact. I initially let it be, but the sheer amount of posts and people repeating this claim made me start questioning them. Where can I find proof of this? Most of them ignored me, of course. Many had told me that this is what they always do, and the rest were some combinations of you can easily find it yourself and everybody knows this. I have asked this probably few dozen people, and at the end they all just stopped responding. But the claim just kept being repeated on and on and on. These people behave like this because these claims are part of an interconnected web of beliefs that they already accept, so it is very easy to just integrate information into their pre-existing beliefs. I think I spend way too much time on Instagram. The second type of motivation is existential. Existential motive help us keep safe and in control. We want to believe that we understand what's going on, that we aren't just pushed around by more powerful forces. You see, conspiracy theorists tend to perceive a lot of existential threats. One of the most common ways this manifests is believing that one's nation is under a great threat, or that they personally are under an attack. Existential threats can manifest in several ways. They are often a way to avoid losing a sense of personal meaning, or having to deal with information that is contrary to our cherished beliefs. Kinda like me, believing that winds of winter are coming. Any day now. There is an interesting study done on this on sample in China. Some participants have read how novel coronavirus and monkeypox are spreading, to make them feel existential threat. All participants were then assessed on several conspiratorial questions, such as asking them, are USA secret agency attempting to affect the political climate in China? Following this, they were asked to rate how many patterns they see in the random coin tosses or abstract paintings. By now you probably already know what happened. People who were made to be afraid of monkeypox or coronavirus indeed did see more patterns and feel that they are being targeted. One of the key components of conspiracy theorists is that they are more likely to believe that the world is inherently dangerous and unstable place, which they tend to perceive with more cynicism rather than optimism, which of course leads to a person feeling more powerless. As you can imagine, people like this are more likely to feel anxious and perceive threats everywhere. However, we are not quite sure if this is true before they start believing in conspiracy theories, or is it that conspiracy theories make them believe in this? Additionally, conspiracy theories tend to score negatively on various aspects of efficacy.
Have a hot take about it, of course. Spoiler alert, It has to do with the Jews in Israel.
Some examples are self-efficacy, the person's belief in their ability to achieve their goal, external efficacy, the belief that government is responsive to its citizens' needs, and political efficacy, the belief in their ability to change the government and influence political decisions.
Protesters are determined to block a new law that would allow extraditions to mainland China.
Police confronting them with tear gas and rubber bullets.
This is very problematic because it doesn't just harm the person themselves, it also makes them feel more powerless. Then they become more complacent in the system and do not actually try to change anything. This can potentially create a self-perpetuating cycle, because person feels helpless against omnipotent outside forces while consuming more and more negative information.
Big tech is suppressing election knowledge, medical knowledge, all this. It's a conspiracy theory.
So what do you want people to do about it?
He's like, you use words like conspiracy theory.
Alex, what do people do about it?
Theory.
What do you want people to do about it?
I want people to be aware of
No, not be aware. What do you want people to do about it? You've made them aware. Now what are they supposed to do?
People.
This is the problem with your platform.
All
you're
you're trying to.
I'm sorry. I thought you were doing this for like 15 years. I thought you had a quick answer to that.
Well, hey, if my platform's so weak, why are they trying to ban it?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want people to do?
What are you going to do, boy?
What do you want people to do, Alex?
I'm going to wreck the New World Order. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
You might have noticed in the previous two domains, results were often small or moderate. This might come as a surprise because some of these aspects are the things we most often associate with conspiracy theories. However, the third domain is different. Social motives. Third reason why people may believe in conspiracy theories is that they allow us to have a very positive image of ourselves and our in-group. What exactly in-group is depends completely on the individual, but it could be your age, your gender, race, job, sexual preference, religion, nation, football club, region, your hobby, family, political orientation, friend group, and many more, and many more, and many more. And here we can find the strongest motive for conspiracy theories. By endorsing a conspiracy that places blame on others, a person can have sense of superiority, both as an individual, but also as a group. You reinforce the notion that your own group is blameless and therefore superior. Conspiratorial thinking is slightly related to need for uniqueness, but strongly to general distrust of others. The general distrust of others can easily turn away people from official narratives and facilitate identifying a clear external enemy. In fact, across all the studies that I personally have seen, the trust in others is the single most negative predictor of conspiracy belief. But I have to mention that this isn't without a good reason. Generally, people in the country will be more distrustful of the government if, well, government gave them reasons not to be trustful. This is why people in some countries, such as USA, tend to be far more open to conspiracy thinking. Because these countries really did do a thing or two that are not trustworthy. Or 3, or 4, or... yeah. However, these correlations in social domains still paint a picture of conspiracy theorists as people who may need to valorize themselves, as they feel they have secret talent or secret knowledge, while simultaneously feeling skeptical of others. They believe that they possess secret knowledge about the truth that others are simply too gullible or naive to believe. If you think that your group is exceptional, superior, and deserving of greater recognition, then you will likely also perceive other groups as being threatening and inferior. This is why people often target outgroup individuals as conspirators behind threatening events. It allows people to idolize the group they identify with, while moving all the blame to nefarious group of saboteurs who have really no redeeming qualities. Funny thing is, when controlled for the overlap between collective self-esteem and collective narcissism was more associated with conspiracy thinking, while collective self-esteem was less so. Essentially, even though these two concepts appear similar, having healthy pride in your group is related with less conspiratorial thinking, while feeling like your group is victimized, underappreciated, and needs more power over others, it goes hand in hand with more conspiratorial thinking. Just like individual narcissism requires constant validation, collective narcissism requires persons in group to be constantly glorified, often at the expense of other groups of the same type, which are seen as less moral, well-intentioned, or successful. And this is, well, horrible, because this type of thinking fosters hostility and allows us to easily justify aggression, even violence, towards the other group. However, the most common way this manifests, And the single variable that is the most present in the mind of conspiracy theorists is, drumroll please, perceiving other group as being threatening. The feeling of one's group being under threat or attack by another group is entrenched not only in the conspiracies themselves, but also the worldview of those who believe them. And it is no surprise, conflicts between groups are very common, so we might have evolved to overestimate how much other groups threaten us, because underestimating can be very deadly. Remember the Chinese study? Well, it found that belief in conspiracy theories, as well as illusory pattern perception and hypersensitive age detection, were stronger when there was a clear outgroup to point the blame towards. In their case, Japanese nuclear sewage leak, which made them see Japan as an external enemy. This effect might have been more visible due to Chinese-Japanese history. Merely the feeling of our group being endangered causes us to see more patterns and assume it happened purposely. I would honestly say that the best example of this is Great White Replacement Theory, which is one of my favorite conspiracy theories. I will probably make a whole video on it eventually, but the gist of it is that there is a secret group of elites, often the Jews, which are intentionally trying to eradicate white people and replace them with a more docile and subservient population, them colored folk.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Jews!
They want to wipe us from this earth just because of the color of our skin.
Really?
It's called white genocide.
While this was a fringe neo-Nazi theory barely a decade ago, it actually grew to be a mainstay in modern-day conservative politics.
Gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say that's true.
The Great Replacement strategy, which is well underway every single day on our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different.
Replace them on a large scale. Even you might say, a large, another synonym would be great. He wants to replace the declining American population on a great scale. Replace on a great scale. So it's like a great replacement, you might say.
And it's not hard to see why. If perceiving other groups as being threatening is the best predictor of conspiracy theories, then a conspiracy theory which frames every group as being threatening will resonate with those who believe in them. Jews, people of color, Muslims, LGBT people, feminists, and pretty much every woman who doesn't want to have multiple white children. Yikes. Oh, and lest I forget, because conspiracy theories are based on such a strong view of social order, they are moderately correlated with two factors. Social dominance orientation, which is how much individuals support social hierarchies and how much they desire their in-group to be superior to others. And right-wing authoritarianism, which is a psychological type that describes somebody who is highly submissive to authorities, will act aggressively in their name, and is highly conformist in their thoughts and behaviors. Obviously in the context of right-wing politics. Now, I already hear you asking, but Mr. Credible, why did they not look into left-wing authoritarianism? Which is a valid question, and the answer is, I don't know, you would have to ask the researchers. My personal guess is that right and left-wing authoritarianism have some crucial differences in how they function, which makes left-wing authoritarianism distinct from right-wing authoritarianism when it comes to social domain of conspiracy theories. But this is just a theory. A conspiracy theory. FII, the scale used to measure right-wing authoritarianism, was designed specifically for North America, although it seems to be applicable for other English-speaking countries such as Australia. However, when applied to, for example, French people, it loses a lot of its effectiveness due to cultural and language issues. So just keep in mind that right-wing authoritarianism, as defined in this research, applies specifically to English-speaking countries. And as previously mentioned, this pattern can be observed in other cultures as well. For example, conspiracy theories are a mainstay part of Arab politics, often related to anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, Western colonialism, and such. A more comical example is how in 2010 Egypt, sharks that have attacked tourists were trained by Israel. A more serious accusation is how in Egypt, Palestinian and Syrian refugees are secretly trying to revive Muslim Brotherhood, which caused escalation in violence. In Israel, according to this one study, people tend to believe in conspiracy theories at least as much, if not more, than Americans. And although Israeli conspiracies tend to be more general, some do claim that foreign non-government organizations, in collaboration with local far-left population, are trying to destroy Israel from within. In India, Hindu right-wing nationalists push conspiracy theory called love jihad, arguing that there is an international conspiracy for Muslim men to systemically seduce, deceive, and kidnap Hindu women to demographically replace native population. This theory has even spread to nearby Myanmar. Japan, on the other hand, has a lot of anti-American conspiracy theories, which would be familiar to anyone familiar with the Western ones: Jewish plot, Freemasons, Illuminati, reptilians, and such. Some more unique twists are conspiracy theories that every major earthquake is caused by foreign weapons, or more insidiously, that Zainichi, Japanese citizens of Korean ethnicity, are more privileged than local ethnically Japanese population because governments and media are secretly controlled by Koreans. It might seem a bit weird that social motives were the only major predictor of belief in conspiracy theories. After all, epistemic and existential motives seem to be almost an inherent part of them. One plausible explanation is that people are drawn to conspiracy theories to explain complex and uncertain phenomena, and only then, by falling deeper into the rabbit hole, do they start feeling anxiety and like they lack control. This shows that much more research is needed, because that is what science is. When it finds something that doesn't fit the theory proposed, it examines it from all the angles to find the truth. But again, it is important to emphasize that this is about general tendency to believe in conspiracy theories, while specific individual patterns may make people prone to start believing in some conspiracy theories, while having a higher need for closure or believing in an inherently dangerous world is more indicative of overall conspiratorial mindset. This is dangerous, because believing your people are threatened by an evil external force, while also considering your group to be superior to others, can lead to some very dangerous outcomes. In fact, if you look through history, such circumstances have led us to commit some of the worst atrocities upon other people. Gregory H. Santon has developed a 10-stage model for genocide, showing how societies slip into mass murder. Though the model does not perfectly represent the real world, it does show how such social dynamics can lead to such horrible actions. And separating people into different groups is a first such step. The humanizing language is what follows from there.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating...
In 1913, the Ottoman Empire lost the First Balkan War, causing it to abandon almost all of its European territories. In the book, They Can Live in the Desert, but Nowhere Else, author Ronald Gregor Suni argues how this, along with the atrocities committed against Balkan Muslims, further radicalized the Ottoman population against Christians. Ideas of plurality and coexistence were disappearing, and the blame had to be assigned. The Ottoman Empire already struggled with the so-called Armenian question, so Ottoman Armenians were blamed, for they are also Christians after all. In 1915, Talat Pasha said, "Turkey is taking advantage of the war in order to truly liquidate its internal foes, the indigenous Christians, without being thereby disturbed by foreign intervention. What on earth do you want? The question is settled. There are no more Armenians." We have been blamed for not making a distinction between guilty and innocent Armenians. Was impossible. Because of the nature of things, one who was still innocent today could be guilty tomorrow. The concern for the safety of Turkey simply had to silence all other concerns. According to International Journal of Armenian Genocide Studies, Ottoman sources have themselves reported that over 800,000 Armenians perished, though modern sources have higher estimates. French philosopher Roger Muchieli analyzed the methods of propaganda in his book, Psychologie de la publicité et de la propagande. That was not French. He lists methods that were used to influence people to achieve their political goals. He specifically analyzed Lenin and Goebbels to investigate how to make countries focus on a common goal, regardless of how true it is. In Rwanda, the Hutu power movement had an entire radio network creating propaganda for them. First, starting with offensive language and crude jokes, and then by calling the Tutsi population inyenzi, cockroaches or insects that are supposed to be exterminated. The official radio of the power movement has stated about Tutsi: someone must make them disappear for good, to wipe them from human memory, to exterminate the Tutsi from the surface of the earth. In the span of the next 100 days, over 500,000 people were killed. A survivor named Donata has said, "The night the president died, I heard that 2 of our neighbors whose wives were Tutsis were killing them and their children. These men were saying that even their children had the blood of snakes. One of the 2 men was dividing his children into 2 parts, those who were going to stay with him and those who were going with their mother. The children who looked like Tutsis were of his wife, and those who were like Hutus were going to stay with him." When Human Rights Watch was uncovering documents of the officials who instigated this, they found Roger Mushieli's book. Leave Now to Tell the Story, Genocide in Rwanda, is a book written by Alison Desfoche, where she consistently writes how vital it was for the power movement to convince people that they are threatened. People need to feel that someone is about to hurt them and their loved ones. These people, who are not like you, will harm you. Then, you can call it self-defense. And if it is self-defense, you can excuse killing someone. Even hundreds of thousands of someones. In the 19th century, Ante Starčević described Serbs as people of whom any softer aspects were exterminated, and only the most destructive antisocial and criminal elements remained. In the South Slav question, Ivo Pilić writes how Croatians are pure Slavs, with all the qualities of a great Nordic race, while the Serbs got polluted by Vlachs and ended up as some of these weaker races, like Jews and Armenians. Lots of questions in this period. In the independent state of Croatia, a familiar rhetoric was made about the Jews, how they have been robbing the country for centuries. But for the Serbian population, which was far more prevalent in the country, terms such as our eternal enemies and cleansing of unwanted elements were used. To illustrate the importance of in-group identity, since the independent state of Croatia was allied with Nazi Germany, who did not like Slavs, they started considering Croatians to be more German than Slav. You see, Croatians are actually descendants of ancient Goths who got confused or something and ended up with Slavic identity. Of course, Germans still considered Croatians to be Untermenschen. In the massacres that followed, hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives. Upon witnessing the atrocities committed by Ustaše, Croatian Catholic Bishop Alojzije Mišić has tried to help. He is alleged to have said, "Have abused our positions. People were caught like animals and slaughtered, killed and thrown alive into the abyss. Women, mothers with children, adult girls, and female and male children were thrown into pits." The sub-prefect of Mostar, Mr. Balić, a Mohammedan, publicly declares, as an official, he should be silent and not utter such statements, that in Ljubinje, 700 schismatics were thrown into one pit alone. From Mostar and Čapljina, the railway took 6 carloads of women, mothers and girls, and children under the age of 10 to the Šurmanci station, where they were taken off the train, led up to the mountains, and the mothers and children were thrown alive off steep precipices. In the parish of Klepsi, 3,700 schismatics from the surrounding villages were murdered. Poor people, they were calm. Must I continue? In the town of Mostar itself, they've been bound by the hundreds, taken outside the city and shot like animals. All 3 of these cases are part of a very complicated history that has stretched for a much longer time than described here. There is a very unfortunate aspect to all of this, in that this type of thinking tends to easily spread. And it is not just between people who agree. When members of one group start appearing more hostile, the members of other group are more likely to endorse conspiracies as well. And if the other group has a tendency towards collective narcissism, then they too will be hostile to the first group. And suddenly conflict escalates. This might create a loop which locks people in for decades, if not centuries. I am not against conspiracy theories. I think it is important to be critical of, well, everyone. But so often, this is just an excuse to make the group we prefer, and by extension us, feel like martyrs who have humbly suffered oppression and now have to heroically fight back against the evil other group who wants to hurt us and has no redeeming qualities. But life is rarely so simple. Group conflicts exist, ill-intentioned conspiracies are constantly being plotted, and injustice and discrimination are absolutely present. But if we just fall into our most primitive thinking, into letting our fear of others, fear of being hurt, take over, that's where atrocities happen. That's when we start justifying evil upon others, because they are not in the right group, because they started it, because they deserve it, because they are they.
Once in a while I dream.
In December 2025, as Australian Jewish community marked the beginning of Hanukkah, 2 shooters have attacked them. 16 people lost their lives, and more will be gone, if not for those who risked their lives to stop the attackers. There is one man in particular who deserves to mention.
And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today. We saw an action of a brave man, turns out a Muslim brave man, and I salute him.
As it turns out. The hero's name is Ahmed al-Ahmed. He is an immigrant from Syria who will completely unharmed risk his life to stop one of the attackers. He got shot several times, but thankfully made a recovery. Ahmed is Muslim, immigrant, in a country that is increasingly hostile to such people. And the people who were attacked were Jewish, not someone you would traditionally consider to be a part of his in-group. Especially right now, some other people are being attacked. This was not Ahmed's problem, but that didn't matter to him. That didn't stop him.
I was just, my target was just to take the gun from him and to stop him from killing a human being life and not killing innocent people.
Rabbi Zalman Lewis, whose cousin has died in this shooting, would go on to say that the world is a good place with billions of good people. He said that we have to believe that billions of good acts can dispel the darkness. The world is increasingly more determined to put you in the box, to put you in a category, to dictate how you're supposed to think or how you're supposed to act. Will the Ottoman Empire, Hutu power movement, and independent state of Croatia have committed unspeakable, horrible acts? There were Turks, Hutus, and Croatians who tried to help. They often lost their livelihoods, even their lives, but that didn't matter. They still tried to help any way they could. And even though none of these 3 states don't exist anymore, it is not about them. It's about us. It is all of our choices as individuals to decide what we're going to do. I think we can choose to be like Ahmed and see human beings that need help. I don't know who he is as a person, but I agree with the words of Rabbi Zalman Lewis. Billions of good acts can dispel the darkness. I think the choices we make matter. I think we can do better. I think we can be better. I have talked a lot about identification and group identity here, but how do we actually categorize things? What does it mean to belong to a group? Why does our mind organize the concepts the way it does? Well, that's the topic of the next video about cognitive schemas. If you stay this far, thank you very much, and please comment which word did you enjoy me mispronouncing the most.